Have you ever noticed that some people will do absolutely anything except ask for help? They'll spend hours trying to fix something they don't understand. They'll carry stress that slowly destroys them. They'll stay awake night after night, smiling during the day, pretending everything is under control. And when someone finally asks, "Are you okay?" their automatic answer is always, "I'm fine." But here's the strange part. Many of these people aren't proud. They're not stubborn. They're not antisocial. In fact, they're often the ones who help everyone else. So why can't they ask for help themselves? The answer isn't laziness. It isn't ego. And it isn't independence. It's something much deeper, hidden inside experiences most people never notice. By the end of this video, you'll understand why asking for help can feel more terrifying than facing life completely alone, and why the people who appear strongest are often carrying the heaviest weight. Welcome to Mind Cipher, where we decode the hidden psychology behind everyday human behavior. Today we're exploring a quiet pattern that affects millions of people, especially high achievers, caregivers, entrepreneurs, and those who grew up believing that being strong meant never becoming a burden. If you've ever said, "I'll figure it out myself," even when you were drowning, this video may explain why. Because sometimes the inability to ask for help isn't strength, it's survival. Imagine every difficult experience you've ever had being placed into a backpack. At first, it's light, a few disappointments, some criticism, a broken friendship, maybe a difficult childhood. But as life continues, the backpack grows heavier. Responsibilities, bills, heartbreak, career pressure, family expectations, loss, failure, anxiety. Most people eventually realize the backpack is too heavy and ask someone to help carry it, but others never do. Not because they enjoy suffering, but because somewhere along the way, their brain learned a dangerous lesson. If I ask for help, I'm a problem. This belief rarely appears overnight. It grows slowly. Maybe every time they cried as a child, someone said, "Stop being dramatic." Maybe every mistake was criticized instead of understood. Maybe they learned that love was conditional, given only when they performed well. Over time, their nervous system adapts. Instead of reaching outward, they retreat inward. Instead of saying, "I need you," they whisper, "I'll handle it," even when they can't. Psychologists sometimes refer to this pattern as self-reliant coping. While independence can be healthy, it becomes harmful when it develops as protection against disappointment, rejection, or shame. A person begins to believe that relying on others is inherently unsafe. Eventually, they stop asking, not because they don't need help, because they no longer believe help is truly available. Here's where it becomes even more interesting. Many people who never ask for help are the first people to help everyone else. Think about that friend who always checks in on everyone, the coworker who stays late to solve everyone's problems, the sibling who carries the family through every crisis, the parent who sacrifices everything while insisting, "Don't worry about me." Why? Because helping others feels safe. Receiving help doesn't. Helping gives control. Receiving help requires vulnerability. And vulnerability means someone could disappoint you, reject you, judge you, or worse, see the parts of yourself you've spent years hiding. Ironically, the people everyone depends on often have no one they truly depend on. Not because nobody cares, but because they've convinced themselves that needing someone makes them weak. And the longer they play the role of the strong one, the harder it becomes to step out of character. But here's the twist. What if refusing help isn't actually a sign of strength, but evidence of an old emotional wound that's still quietly controlling your life? Because neuroscience reveals something surprising about what happens inside the brain when someone believes they have to face everything alone. And once you understand it, you'll never look at independence the same way again. Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded city, surrounded by thousands of people, cars rushing by, phones ringing, conversations everywhere, and yet feeling completely alone. Not because no one is there, but because your mind has convinced you that no one can truly carry what you're carrying. That belief doesn't just change your relationships, it changes your brain. There's a difference between being independent and becoming emotionally unreachable. Healthy independence says, I can handle this, but if I need help, I'll ask. Hyper-independence says, if I ask for help, I've already failed. At first, it looks impressive. They're reliable, disciplined, successful, the person everyone admires. But beneath that image, something very different is happening. Every difficult decision is carried alone. Every disappointment is processed in silence. Every fear stays locked inside. Eventually, their emotional world becomes a private prison. Psychologists often describe this as a protective strategy. If someone has repeatedly learned that vulnerability led to rejection, criticism, or disappointment, the brain begins treating emotional openness as a potential threat. Over time, the safest option feels like depending only on yourself. The problem? Protection and isolation often arrive together. The walls that keep pain out also keep love out. The same armor that protects you also prevents genuine connection. Because intimacy isn't built by appearing perfect. It's built by allowing someone to see your imperfections and trusting they won't leave. That's why so many emotionally independent people have dozens of acquaintances, but very few people who truly know them. They share stories, they share opinions, they share achievements, but they rarely share their fears. And without realizing it, they become experts at being seen without ever feeling understood. Society rewards self-reliance. From childhood, many people hear messages like, be strong, handle it yourself, don't complain, don't be a burden. Those lessons can build resilience, but taken to the extreme, they create emotional loneliness because humans were never designed to survive entirely alone. Our brains evolved in communities. For thousands of years, survival depended on connection. Feeling supported isn't just comforting. It helps regulate stress, improves emotional resilience, and makes difficult experiences easier to process. When people carry everything alone, their stress often stays elevated for longer. Sleep suffers, patience disappears, small problems feel enormous. Eventually, their body begins carrying the weight their words never expressed. The tragedy is, many of these people don't even realize they're struggling because exhaustion has become their normal. They've been fine for so long, they've forgotten what healthy actually feels like. Think about someone who always says, I've got it. They refuse help moving. They refuse emotional support after a breakup. They work late, answer emails at midnight, never call when they're overwhelmed. From the outside, they look incredibly capable, but capability isn't the same as well-being. Sometimes, the strongest looking person in the room is simply the one who's become best at hiding their pain. Strength isn't measured by how much you carry. It's measured by whether you know when you don't have to carry it alone. But here's the question almost nobody asks. If asking for help feels so uncomfortable, how do you ever change? Can someone who has spent decades relying only on themselves actually learn to trust other people again? The answer isn't what most people think, and it begins with one simple realization. You don't have to trust everyone. You only have to stop believing you can survive without anyone. So far, we've uncovered something most people never realize. People who never ask for help aren't necessarily stronger. They're often survivors. Some learned that vulnerability wasn't safe. Others learned that depending on people only led to disappointment. So they built an identity around one sentence. I don't need anyone. But here's what they never realize. The strongest prison is the one that feels like freedom. Most people think courage looks dramatic, running into danger, starting a company, standing on a stage, fighting impossible odds. But some of the bravest moments are completely invisible. Sending a message that says, "Can we talk?" Calling a friend instead of pretending you're okay. Admitting, "I don't know what to do." Those moments may seem small, but for someone who spent years believing they must face everything alone, they're monumental. Because asking for help isn't just asking a question, it's challenging a belief that may have existed for decades. A belief that says, if people see the real me, they'll leave. But here's the paradox. The people worth keeping usually don't leave because you're struggling. They leave because they never knew you were. Real connection doesn't happen when people admire your perfection. It happens when they witness your humanity, and that changes everything. Think about the tallest trees in the forest. From above, they look like they stand alone. Strong, independent, unshakable. But beneath the surface, their roots are connected. Many forests share nutrients through vast underground fungal networks, sometimes called the wood wide web. While it's not a perfect analogy for people, it reminds us of something important. In nature, thriving often depends on connection, not isolation. Humans are remarkably similar. No great athlete succeeds without coaches. No successful entrepreneur builds entirely alone. No scientist discovers everything in isolation. No musician creates an orchestra by playing every instrument. The greatest achievements in history were never built by one person. They were built by people who understood that accepting support doesn't reduce your strength. It multiplies it. Somewhere along the way, our culture confused independence with isolation, but they're not the same. Independence means I can stand on my own. Wisdom means I don't always have to. Maybe you've recognized yourself throughout this video. Maybe you're the person everyone depends on, the one who never complains, never asks for favors, never wants to inconvenience anyone. If that's you, here's something worth remembering. People who genuinely care about you don't see helping you as a burden. Think about it. When someone you love calls because they're struggling, do you think, what an inconvenience? Or do you think, I'm glad they trusted me enough to call? Exactly. The kindness you freely give to others is often the kindness you refuse to give yourself. Perhaps the real strength you've been searching for isn't learning to carry more. It's learning to put the weight down before it breaks you. Because healing rarely begins with having all the answers. It begins with one honest sentence. I could use a little help. And sometimes those 6 words change an entire life. At Mind Cipher, we believe that understanding your mind is the first step toward transforming your life. If this video resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Someone in your life may be carrying a burden they've never spoken about. Share this video with them. It might be the conversation they've been waiting for. If you enjoyed this deep dive into human psychology, subscribe to Mind Cipher and turn on notifications. Every week we decode the hidden patterns behind behavior, emotions, habits, and the human mind, so you can understand yourself and others a little better. And before you go, tell us in the comments, what's harder for you, asking for help or accepting it when it's offered? Sometimes one honest answer can help someone else feel less alone. Until next time, stay curious, stay aware, and keep decoding the mysteries of the mind.